World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. As always, I am super excited, humbled, grateful, and thankful to be in this space. This is Marie Dunn, your host for The Bold Show. Brilliantly overcoming life disappointments. We all can relate to having challenges and setbacks in our lives, but we always have control as to how we get up, brush ourselves on, and move forward. And this month is an exceptional month for us because it's Women's Her Story Month. A month long, we're celebrating women. We are so powerful and we have superpowers and we make the impossible possible. So tonight, like always, I have an incredible guest. And I'm not going to waste time to introduce this guest. I'm going to allow the guest to do it herself. But we also want to highlight social workers. This month of March as well is Social Work Month. And we're also celebrating National Reading Month. Exactly. So March, yes, March Madness. Let the madness begin. But this is really serious. I'm really hoping that our viewers are taking away information and are on the journey to changing their lives. We always have control. And we got to remember, nothing in life is permanent. Everything is fleeting. We just have to be patient and we have to trust the process. And while we're trusting the process, we have to make that conscious decision to act. So without further ado, I am going to welcome our guest tonight. She goes by Coach Dea, and I leave it all up to her to take us on this journey. Welcome and good night, and thank you.
Hello, beautiful. How are you?
I am incredible. And how about yourself?
I am well, and thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of such an important month, such an important message that you have with your beautiful show called Bold. It all aligns with a lot of the things that I am passionate about. I am very thankful to be here today.
And I am so happy that you said yes when I reached out to you, because not only are you such an example of what it means to get up, brush yourself off, and move on. We are going to be talking about sensitive matters that folks may not be comfortable with, but you're a living example that you've been there, done that. And here you are today, smiling, you're glowing. And your glow is coming from inside out. So I'm really hoping that our viewers tonight and folks who will watch the show in the future will have some great takeaways from this show. Because it's really important. We sit here, we have these conversations. Knowledge is power, right? And we share of ourselves. We are so vulnerable. But we're doing this because we care and because we want others to know that there is a way and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Why don't you tell our viewers who you are?
Okay, for starters, I love what you said about this place of power that we find within to move forward, to get up, to rise, and do better for ourselves. And I think in that process, we do bring people along with us. We inspire them, we empower them, we lead the way. My name is Dea. I am a women's empowerment coach. I work with marriage and family as well as divorced women's coach. I love to connect with people. I'm also in the process of a trauma healing certification, and that was something that I decided to do recently to aid in my ability to coach others and connect with others and discover more about the path of how they connect with their loved ones. In addition, I am the host of the award-winning podcast, Love Most, the podcast with Dea. It's another platform that I use to connect with other people, to understand about their culture, whether it be or a service or a book or something that they do that offers and impacts other people in their immediate communities or in communities around the world. I am extremely passionate about connecting with others, but also helping people. And the way that I discover that is by going a little deeper in my own healing journey, in which I discovered the tools to help other people. So basically, what I'm saying is I was able to turn my pain into purpose.
Love it. That pain into purpose or passion, that's incredible. Day, as I'm sitting here listening to you, I have goosepimples, not just by you introducing yourself, but because I have sat in other spaces with you and listened to how you articulate yourself and how much command you have of your life, right? I want to ask you, what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to you to be a woman?
I believe that being a woman is, well, actually, it's many things. It's not one thing. It is nurture. It is nature. It is influence. It is leadership. Um, we have this inner superpower that has all to do with loving, with being a point of connection for others. I love the word woman because it almost brings me to the word mother. And maybe people might disagree and say, well, but not every woman is a mother. I believe that all women are mothers in some way. You may not be mothers biologically, but you may be a mentor to someone. You may be a voice of reason to someone who needs. All women have the power of nurture. We're nurturers by nature. So being a woman is being a mother by nature, whether you have biological children or you are mentoring someone in your community, or if you're helping a family member. We all hold that superpower of influence.
I love it. That superpower of influence, right? Um, so Dea, as you're sitting here in the bold hot seat, right? Something happened that triggered everything that you are today. And I also want to highlight to people that you're not your past. And we need the past because without the past, we can't move forward. And we also need endings because if we don't have endings, we can't have beginnings, right? But I think it's human nature when we are thrown off course, we freeze, right? And we could go into conversations about that stress response, right? But for you tonight to sit here so poised, so relaxed, a mother of 5, I need you to share with us how you did it.
It's an interesting question to answer, actually, because I think that the process of recovery, the process of healing, comes from a place of not knowing. Um, when I went through the struggles that led me to where I stand today, I didn't really know what I wanted specifically. I just knew I wanted a different life, and I had no idea what that looked like. But I believe that in that place of desire, somehow a way is made for us to see. Maybe we can't see exactly what is going to be at the end of that journey. I think I was given the opportunity to look at the next step. Every time I picked my foot up, there was a place to step into. And from that place, I moved on to the next step. And what I'm saying is that every time I picked my foot up is a representation, a manifestation of an action. When I took an action and decided, okay, I don't want to be here. I need a different life. I don't know what that looks like, but today I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this. And every time I did that, it led to a different space. And I kept moving forward and moving forward and moving forward. And honestly, when I look back at all the struggles I had, I heard this expression somewhere. These are not my words, but I heard this expression that says, fail forward. And so with that, I felt that, I deserve to heal. I deserve to grow. I want to. I don't know how, but I'm going to push myself, take that extra step today and another step tomorrow. And so the place of arrival, right? We talk about, sometimes people can say, oh, divine appointments, everything was perfect. It's no coincidence. But as you know, the journey is labored. And the place of arrival is not a perfect place, right? It's not about where you're going. It's not about where you arrive. It's just about how you manage your time during the journey. It's not the story of the triumph, as I like to say. It's about the story of the journey.
That is incredible. But I also hear you say you were tired of being tired. And so you made this decision to act. And I think I want to stick with that for a little bit, because oftentimes we make these decisions, we never do anything.
Mm.
And then we sit there and we twiddle our thumbs and we whine and we say, why me? And we play that victim card. Let's have a conversation about that, because our goal on the Bold Show is to help people to move from that place where they feel stuck. And we want to give them real tools to get them moving. So can you shed some light on that for us, please?
Yes, I'd love to. Okay, so the first thing that came to mind is an understanding that most people are more comfortable with pain than with happiness, because it's so much harder to access the places in which you will have to be different. Everything is going to be different. We're not comfortable in this uncomfortable place, which is the unknown. So it's much easier to stay unhappy than it is to pursue happiness. The pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of peace is not peaceful. It's labored. So most people are comfortable with pain because it's familiar, painful, but familiar. So that's the first thing that we need to make a distinction about. The second thing is that place of where you find, like you said, I was tired of being sick and tired and not knowing or wanting more, and even not knowing where I needed to go. That little bit of desire propelled me to ask this question about, if I am going through these things in my life today, and by the way, many of my struggles at that point were identified as self-inflicted storms, as I like to say. That would take accountability and humility to realize that everything did not really necessarily meant that there was someone to blame other than myself. Although there were a lot of things that were not my fault. But here's where I started making the distinction, and it's what helped me the most in my journey of healing. It was asking myself the question, what was my role in my pain? Because that question does not say it's your fault, or or anyone's fault for that matter. That question has to do about your awareness of how you chose in the moment to take part in that life event. Some of us take part subconsciously. Some of us are not aware of what we're doing, but nonetheless, we do choose how to take part. We are influenced by outside events, or we are influenced by our core values, our foundational core values. And a lot of people aren't in the presence of what's going on subconsciously, but those play a part in how we choose to take part in life events. So that question was a very important question to answer. It took a while to even figure out what it was exactly that I was trying to access it. I was able to make the distinction that when I looked back into my life and connected the dots going backwards, which we can only do it in that fashion, right? Looking back, I realized that a lot of the things that were from my earliest memories, at that time, I did not have a role in my pain because I was a child and I was innocent. So I want to make that distinction here, because a lot of people who are carrying pain are carrying deep-rooted trauma. And those that happen during the early stages of childhood are absolutely not a child's fault. Many people are carrying that, what I like to say, it is a very heavy backpack that most people put on before they step out the door. That of trauma, that of pain, that of unanswered questions, that of injustice. And when it does happen in the early stages of childhood, I'm here to say and to assure anyone who's listening, that was not your fault. Okay. But we still, in the process of navigating through that time of our lives, we choose how to take part in a way, and sometimes on a subconscious level. As we get older, right, we make those decisions by putting up walls. Those walls then become responsible of how we choose to engage with people. Now we have points of reference, right? That beginning, whatever the problem began, is your point of origin, but your point of references are directly related to the walls that you put up. Rightfully so for a lot of cases, but sometimes, like I said, on a subconscious level, we don't really know why we do it. It's just some way to defend ourselves, some way to survive the situation in our lives. Now, for the self-inflicted storms, emotional humility played a part in it, right? I had to kind of look at myself and say, okay, what did you do or not do here that led you to allow yourself to stay in this place? Was there something that I needed to hold on to stay in that place? What is something that I couldn't let go of that made me stay in that place longer than I needed? Did I overstay? Was I complacent? Was I angry? Was I trapped? Was I blaming others or blaming myself? All of those things are conversations that obviously for everyone, if you're listening, for each one of us, that conversation will look a little bit different. It's a very individualized experience. But it was a very powerful and important question to ask. That's where most of the shift began to happen.
That's beautiful. So again, I hear you say we have to take accountability for our role that we play in our lives. And I also hear you say that we need to become active participants in our healing process. It's easier for us to stay in that safe space. And unfortunately, that safe space, it's that place of pain. It's that place of thinking that you can't do better. It's that place of holding yourself hostage, of becoming slave to your past. But we want to continue to encourage people that you could overcome. No matter how much tools we give, no matter how we tell you, it's so important for you to create a plan, to set goals, and to talk yourself, but you have to make that conscious decision to say, enough is enough. Because we both know that change happens when that individual decide enough is enough, and when they want something different to happen in your life. Dear, that's beautiful. And talk about superpowers. You have them all over. But I think I'm also curious to know that during those dark times, those challenges, right, your obstacles, despite the fact that you had a desire to say, I can do better, did you have any support, a listening ear, or someone you could turn to during these difficult times?
Not initially.
Okay.
Not initially. I think that it's fair to say that there were phases, there were stages of that healing journey. First of all, to clarify, the very first thing that happened is I just want a different life, or I wasn't going to make it. So it was more, it was out of wanting to survive. I knew that I couldn't afford not to be here. So I made it, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do something, has to change. I had no idea what that looked like. So the next step was I had just enough courage to seek help. Just enough that I thought maybe I could speak to someone, or maybe I can. I had books, so I started reading. Little by little, I started finding ways to connect with something that I thought I wouldn't have access to. But little by little, like I said, every time I picked my foot up and said, I'm going to take a step today, even if it's to look at a YouTube video, research trauma or depression, research anything, PTSD, go read about what you think is going on with you. Now, I did have a previous experience with personal development, so I was kind of more aware than most people. But that is not to say that people cannot do this, even if you don't have some type of preparation. I did have the tools to some extent, but couldn't access them in the moment because of how my mind was I was so entangled in my pain. Okay. But eventually, like I said, take a step, try to find out, things started opening up. And this is what happens when you make that decision. And you said something about change. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it happens in the moment that you decide, even if you don't know how, that you just can't take it anymore. It's not going to sound like today I'm going to heal. Oh, it's a great day. This is going to be amazing. It will not look like that for most people. It'll be a desperate cry for help. Whether it's the last straw, whether it's, I don't know how, but this has to be better. We have to understand that that process of change, the shift, happens in the most human way. The ugly, the shameful, the fearful. It is not a bed of roses, a walk in the park, a beautiful sunny day. It won't be like that. It is not an easy place to be, but that process itself of the moment when you ask, why me? Right? Because you said a lot of people, sometimes we get stuck and paralyzed because we're looking for an answer to a question that do not need to be asked. I always like to say, in the times that I've struggled the most, I started wondering when I started asking what was my role in my pain. It led me to believe this. When we start seeking answers, what you're going to end up asking yourself is, what is it that I need to see here that I might not be grasping something? Maybe there is something I need to see that I haven't seen yet. Maybe it's something I need to learn that I haven't learned yet. Maybe there is something I need to do that I haven't done yet. Because when you ask the questions from that perspective, then your perception of your reality changes. That reality does not include why me, poor me, oh my gosh, I'm not enough. No, that reality will become the perception of what's going on based on the questions that you're asking to be given some sort of answer, some sort of, what do I do here? You're basically saying, I surrender to whatever the answer is, whatever the path is, just show me the way. And I believe that's what transformation happens. It's saying, I want to be able to see something or to be shown something that I myself don't have the power to access in the moment. But however way it was, my faith literally just said, okay, you're going to have to believe that there is something more than what you're going through right now, that you're more than your circumstance in the moment, that you're not defined by what happened to you. Yes, you have struggles, but the struggles don't have you.
I love everything you said. And I intentionally asked you that question because I'm a firm believer that the tools we need to heal, it lies within us. Because until we are conscious enough to recognize that this is not benefiting me right now, this is too painful for me right now, and I deserve better, there's not a damn thing that can happen. So the tools that we need to start our healing process, it lies within us. And that looks like resilience. So
It does. And furthermore, add one more tool to this toolbox that we're talking
Okay.
about here. The tools that lie within us. There's one other thing. The stops, the struggles, the storms, they are your steps.
yes.
They're stepping stones to self-discovery. Even when you're dealing with trauma, even when you're dealing with things that we don't understand that were done to us, there is a place of such beauty in those moments, because when you might have noticed that when we have some type of suffering due to trauma or something that happened to us that we had no control over, we end up behaving in a certain way, and oftentimes end up going back to relationships or uh, connections with people that keeps reminding us of those moments, right? I think that is a manifestation of the need to heal. You're being shown the areas in which you're still not healed. Because honestly, ultimately, we're meant to be on the earth to be a part of a greater picture that none of us even know what the answer is. Yes, we choose on our everyday how to take the steps. Yes, the tools lie within ourselves as well as in the circumstances that are presented to us, whether it was uh, self-inflicted or not, whether it's coming to us in a subconscious way or not. There is a journey that everybody's on. We are all part of a bigger picture here. I have to share with you that for some reason or another, this popped in my mind. Back in 2021, I was struck with COVID and I almost died. I was sick for 67 days. And that experience was life changing, because after the 67 days, after being in isolation, after being hospitalized twice and almost losing my life, I realized that the one thing I came out of it from that experience is we have no control of what's on the outside of us. In the moment that you're said, you were told you're not going to make it, and I had the ability, because of my faith, to surrender to that moment and say, if this is my time, so be it. I didn't want to be intubated. They were telling me I needed to do certain things. I was allergic to some of the medication. It was just one disaster after the other. However, even after I came out of that process, it took me 2 months to recover mentally, because I couldn't grasp the fact that I felt that my life had been tampered with. And I realized how shocked I was by the fact that even though I had made choices, I was a happy person, and I was positive, and I had all these great gifts, but I was still given something that I didn't know how to deal with. And I, in that moment, almost wanted to ask why, like, why me? Why did this happen to me? And I remember then my own conversation about, what is it that I'm being shown here? Is this an opportunity for me? Is this the stop, the edge that's going to propel me into a whole different direction of the person that I'm supposed to become? It wasn't until that experience that, I was preparing to launch my podcast. I was so fearful of the unknown. I have never done this before. When I came out of COVID, it took me 2 months to say, you know what? I don't think I can do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. And a year later, my podcast won an award, the 28th Annual Communicator Award for Best Live Episode, which, by the way, my whole back conversation at the time was, this was the episode that had an hour and 13 minutes. I usually go 35 minutes, 40 minutes. And it wasn't really in that pattern of as podcast goes, but it was the best live episode that won the award. With everything that I said, it wouldn't even make it. I'm just going to do it because it was one of my favorite episodes with award-winning filmmaker, Dr. Kevin McAfee. I said, this is one of my favorite episodes. I'm going to enter this one on the competition, on the award. And it was, I was surprised that it made it, because I knew that it didn't fit that profile of, as far as podcast goes in terms of timing. Everything that happened after that, it was a surprise, was a bonus. But I remember my stops are my steps. Out of that experience, when I stopped asking why it had happened to me, little by little, I felt like my soul was set on fire. I
Say that.
remained. I
Say
lived.
that.
I survived. My soul was set on fire. I came out bolder than I've ever been. So your stops are your steps. Those are stepping stones. Anytime there is an obstacle, don't underestimate the power of an obstacle. I like to say, and I know maybe some people, if you are like me, a Christian woman, you're going to understand this analogy. Not all storms come from the enemy. Some of them are placed before you for you to see something you haven't seen yet, for you to do something you haven't done yet, for you to just listen differently, to understand that the only thing you have control of is the role in your peace. The role in our pain is most of the time subconscious. It comes from, we took part in it in some way. We didn't have really access to certain tools. But the moment you decide, I want to have a role in my peace, that is completely intentional. You have the power to decide, to declare, to decree victory, love, power, influence, all of the things that you deserve. It may sound like an impossible task to people who might be listening to me right now, say, oh, look at her. She's there. I've arrived. But if you knew where I began, even before the COVID, for the years of severe depression, PTSD due to personal circumstances, and all of the struggles along the way. I've had a lot of blessings in my life. I'm not saying it was all horrible, but there are times when it came to that point of, how do I make it out of here? Every single obstacle plays a part in right now. When you turn your pain into purpose, you come from a place of brokenness. No one is going to relate to the triumph, right? No one is going to look at you and say, I can relate to her because look at her. She's doing this. She's here. I want you to look beyond what you see right now and remember that all of us come from some brokenness. All of us have some type of trauma. All of us have some type of baggage. That heavy backpack that we carry, whether it's filled with grief, filled with trauma, filled with just misfortune, according to our, standards, it's heavy. And unless we're willing to put it down, nothing will propel us into our purpose. The work is labored. Your pursuit of happiness, pursuit of peace, pursuit of purpose will involve work, but it's so worth it.
I can't even begin to say how grateful I am, and always grateful for the storms in my life. Because if it wasn't for the storms in my life, I would not have this full show. I wouldn't be sitting here. But you said something earlier that I want to go back to, when you were surprised because your podcast did not fit into that criteria. And that is so profound because society puts us in this box and we become so submissive to what we're told to do. But I like to tell people, I'm not screaming. I'm probably a little audacious. You may call me cocky, but it's confidence. Because if you don't act in such a manner, you're lost. If you're going to sit here and because of what Dea said to me, oh, I can only show up in spaces if my hair is permed. Or I can only show up in spaces but I have to sit and I have to be quiet. No, we have to make that decision as well to act. We have to be courageous enough to say, I'm going to do this anyway, like Dea, and see what happens. The unknown, the unfamiliar makes us so uncomfortable. But until we get to that place where we can become so uncomfortable, we'll never be comfortable. It's the illusion that we are. So we have to dig deep within ourselves and rise above that. I tell folks every day, I don't care what anyone has to say, because people are going to talk anyway.
Right.
What I care about is what I am saying to myself. It's that inner dialogue you're having with yourself. It's that conversation you're having, not worrying about what society tells us to do or those messages that we learned growing up. Oftentimes they're not true, but you have to find yourself, find who you are, and propel. And in those storms, I believe, as a woman of God, a woman of faith, I also believe those storms are designed to see how we will handle our successes. It's preparation.
Right.
There is no progress without process.
I love what you said. I can so relate to that. I think that in the moments where I felt with the least power, the moments of surrender, the moments that I said, okay, I am ready to receive. I know I deserve it. I don't know how, but I'm going to find this way. I felt that in some way I was positioning myself for greatness. I waited for the moment to experience it, knowing that I would get it. I said, when the time comes, I will know when that is. There are a lot of things that didn't work. There are a lot of things that did work. But amidst my struggles, you get to that point in life where you say, I can look back and say, this is something that I actually say to myself all the time. It's my own, these are my own words. Don't let the storm define you. Let it design you. So you take everything, the broken, the ugly, the bad, the PTSD, the depression, the divorces, the grief, the loss of family, everything, almost dying, everything. And you just use everything that you have.
Yeah.
Everything is beautiful. Everything that's broken is still beautiful. If we carry ourselves being proud that at least we stood in truth. Some of us are going to feel shame. Some of us are going to feel not comfortable with sharing the things that have happened to us. But there is so much beauty in the brokenness, because I call them prison door openers. Your struggle may be the key to someone else's prison door. And unless you're willing to share, obviously most of us cannot share in the moment that it's happening, but have enough humility in the sense of responsibility that when you go through something, it was meant for something greater, even beyond what you can see. What I did was I eventually, I spent the 2 years of the pandemic, actually, even post COVID, studying and getting ready to create a coaching practice that would empower women from different backgrounds, different cultures. I work with couples. I work with divorced women, married women, happily or unhappily married. I'm about to start a co-coaching practice with a marriage crisis coach in the near future by the name of Jeff. He's also an author by the name of Jeff Berkowski. I also have taken interest in trauma healing. I'm in the middle of a trauma healing certification because I realized that our traumas play a part in how we not only attract, but the way we seek relationships. When we lose our identity, when our identity becomes stem from our pain, oftentimes we end up pairing ourselves with people that are also telling us who we are from their lack. We're not able to identify that not everybody is equipped to tell us who we are, right? And this is something you said. It's so important to be able to make that distinction. But when you come from trauma, often you don't have access to that tool. So my whole in this journey of coaching, I decided, well, how many people that are having trouble in relationships are operating from the place of trauma with the backpack on? They're carrying the trauma backpack on. They walk into every single relationship like that, with that weight of what was done to them, kind of like drinking poison, right? I heard someone, I don't know who was the mentor that said, you can't keep drinking the poisons expecting that the person who hurt you will drop dead next door. You are putting that on yourself. You are the one harming yourself. You're the one getting sicker, and you're not really moving forward because it is paralyzing, right? So fear is okay. Okay, fear is totally okay. What's not okay is to be waiting for the fear to pass. It's not realistic. Most of us are not going to be able to move forward if we don't have the understanding that fear is, again, the manifestation of courage. There is no courage without fear. If you choose to put your focus on the fear part instead of, in spite of the fear, I have courage. I am walking forward. I'm going to go through. I'm going to do this. I don't think I can make it, but who cares? Let's just do it. Try, pick up your foot and take that step. Every time you desire something, don't wait for it to happen. Take one action towards that decision. That desire, I don't know what it looks like. Today I'm going to do this. That's all I can do today. One thing every day towards your goal. You'll be surprised that if you commit to doing one small step every day towards your goal, at the end of 30 days, you have 30 things that you did that helped you get closer to your goal. When it comes to dealing with trauma and things of personal nature, of course, trauma triggers, it's a little bit more complicated. So one of the things that you had asked me before earlier in the interview was, how did I find my way out of it? So the first step was to ask the right questions to myself, take accountability, be responsible for my own, realizing that I was the only person, no matter how hard I didn't want to believe this at first. I still didn't want to blame people who hurt me, but the only person that could really go through the process of healing, it was all up to me. The healing was my responsibility. Okay. So what I discovered that as I took further steps, then I read books, I watched videos, then I hired a coach, much like what I do today, right? I hired someone to help me and navigate the things that I couldn't even see for myself. And based on all of the things that I thought I lacked, a list of things that this is what you deserve, this is what your life should be like, was created for me. And I went from there. Okay. And then, of course, I read more books. I started interviewing people. I started becoming interested in connecting with people from a different place, from a place of understanding. My brokenness now came my power. I used it to my advantage. I said, I'm not going to sit here and put myself down, look in the mirror and be my worst enemy, right? Putting myself down, saying I wasn't enough, saying that I didn't deserve things. I said, no, I deserve things too. And I don't care what it takes. I'm going to go after it. So I think that it's very important in the process of healing to discover some sort of tribe. I like to call it tribe, some type of support system. Obviously, not everyone has access to coaching or some type of therapy. Some people need psychotherapy. Some people need just counseling. There are different types of help that you need. So it's important to figure out what it is that works best for you. Everyone is different. I don't have anything against any type of approach. I think, again, it's a very individualized experience. Some people need medication to actually even get to the point that they can start speaking about what's going on with them. Everything is fine. Everything is okay. There is no right or wrong way to do this. It's a very personalized experience. But the most important thing is that we have to be open to say, I deserve to heal. I deserve to have a better life. And once you do that, then, of course, you look for your support system and make sure that the people that are surrounding you are equipped to help. I know we'd love to say that we have lots of people that love us, but not everyone who loves us is actually equipped to help us. Okay, those people may be people that are actually trying to help you from their lack and from their brokenness. Mm-hmm. And so they're not going to say, hey, I will hold you accountable for this. You need to do. They're going to love you and be there for you when you cry, and there is nothing wrong with that. But make sure that you're not toxic venting. Toxic venting is a very serious thing, and it happens because it happens in the places of love. People who love you, family members, best friends, people that love you but that are not equipped to help you. And unless you identify that, it's amazing to have friends. It's amazing to have a shoulder to cry on. But if you're crying on a shoulder of a person who is broken, who doesn't understand that you need to be held accountable in order to be able to take the next steps or to take each step, even if it's a small step every day, that person may not have the ability to recognize how to help you. So yes, keep your friends close, but make sure that the people that are actually helping you move forward are people that are equipped to help you. It is very important.
Absolutely well said. Um, and I think that's one of our challenges, right? And I'll use this word expectation because when you talk about that word love, I think that word is used loosely and with not much understanding of what the word means, right? So we have this friend or we have a mother and we may have a cousin and we have this thing called expectation that they should show up for us when we need them the most. And I think because of this idea of what we should have and what we should get from an individual, we set ourselves up for failure. Because when that person is not able to give us what we think they should be giving us, then the disappointment comes in. And then that even influences that trauma that you already have and that pain that you already carry around. But I think what I want to ask from you, Dea, is for you to break down trauma, the word trauma, because we hear that it's thrown around so much. So I'm going to ask you to just break it down for us a little bit so we have a better sense.
So trauma, by definition, is an event, right? A life event that happens that in one way or another changes changes not only that moment, but carries us through life until we try to take care of it, understand what happened. Some people take forever to heal. Some people, it's again, it's a very individualized experience. But trauma can be something that is self-inflicted. It also can be inflicted by others. It can happen to anyone at any stage of life. And basically, what it does, it has the ability to bleed into who we become. It can paralyze us. It can propel us in a totally different manner than it was meant to be to begin with. And unfortunately, in traumatic situations, we don't have much control. Um, the wounds of trauma are wounds of the heart. It could be a traumatic event such as a loss of a child. It can be a loss of a job. It can be you lost your whole house, your whole background, your family, your photos in a fire. There are so many different types of trauma. And what happens is because there are so many stages in how we process trauma, it's almost like the one that's most prominent to me is this sense of grief that we carry. Again, in that backpack of trauma and triggers, we also carry grief. Okay, then it becomes a very heavy, heavy load. It is a place in which it needs a lot of care. It needs a lot of understanding. It requires us to go back and take a look at it. What is difficult, I think, is that most people's expectation is to go back and try to change what happened or try to fix what happened. And obviously, in tragic situations, we obviously can, because if there's a death related to a tragedy, it is not something we can reverse. But in other types of trauma, where they could be emotional trauma or something that happened early in an early life or in a situation with a family member, we tend to think that by going back, that we're going to change something or that we can fix something, and we can't. Mm-hmm. However, the importance of looking back is to say, I understand what happened. You need to go back to take a look at what happened, why it happened, and why you stand where you are. That's the beginning stages of, this is the first step you have to take. It's go back one more time, take a look, not to fix, not to change, but to understand what happened. And I believe that because trauma will oftentimes carry us, in other words, it will still play a part in our lives through a time, to a length of time until we decide to work on healing from that trauma. Oftentimes we reach adulthood and we're still carrying the trauma in the backpack, right? And when we decide to take a look back, now we're saying, take another look, but this time with the eyes of an adult, but this time with a better understanding that those things that happened, they weren't your fault. They might have not been your fault. It is so different to take a look at what has happened to us when we're standing in a different place. Not everyone gets to experience that, okay? Many people come to the place where they need to work on their healing at different times in their lives. Some people are in their 50s before they say, oh, this was a trauma from childhood, and now I'm going back and learning to love again. And since I mentioned the word love, I wanted to touch a little bit, piggyback on what you said about love, especially in the realm of relationships. We are accustomed to think of love as an emotion. Okay, love is an emotion, yes, but love is also a decision, a choice. Mm-hmm. Love is an action. Love isn't one thing. Love is many things. Okay, it's very layered. It's something that should be unconditional. Love is inclusive, not exclusive. Love, there's no place for judgment. There's no place for bullying. There's no place for public shaming. There are so many things that love is not, right? There are so many things that love is not. But love is also, I call it the biggest umbrella, where everything else lies under that place. Okay, under love is self-awareness, self-respect, self-expression. We have to keep remembering that even in situations of trauma, believe it or not, a part of the equation, a part of the whole picture, when you fast forward, if we could fast forward our lives, if we could look into the future, we would understand that love was always there. At times we didn't have access to it. We didn't have the opportunity to feel love or to be loved, but love is always there. Love simply is, it's there. It is the biggest umbrella that covers every area of our lives. And what makes a difference in the healing from trauma, in the journey of healing, is how we are able to access those places. Now, I tell you this, as wonderful as love as an emotion is, if we keep remembering love as an emotion only, we miss out on the opportunities to have a deeper understanding about ourselves and others. Because with love also comes forgiveness and compassion. And those are not easy to give, I have to say, but it is possible. Okay, all of those things are attainable, but of course it takes time. Okay, yes. I don't know if there is a final destination per se. I think there's strength and beauty in the journey of self-discovery, where we can actually go back to ourselves and understand what actually happened and release ourselves from, remove the shackles from our ankles. A lot of people are walking around with that heavy weight. And that's why it's so important to be able to identify those areas and seek help in the proper manner.
Perfect. And I'm going to encourage everybody, drop that backpack. And I'll use a quick analogy of if we're traveling and we're going on a vacation. And I come to you and I say, Dea, we are going to Mexico. Mexico is a tropical country, right? So I don't expect to take winter gears when I'm going to Mexico. So it's the same analogy, like we have to unload those backpacks, our luggages. We got to take things that no longer suits us. What's the point of us taking winter clothes to Mexico?
Right.
How are we going to use that?
Right. Since you said the word expectation, I wanted to say this. Lower those expectations, but please keep your standards high. You're going to ask me what that means. That means that you will be expecting of yourself to receive better, to feel better, to know that you deserve better. We need to give ourselves permission for those things. No one can give you that.
Yeah.
When we have an understanding of what we deserve, we are able to access a place of what others deserve, how we can contribute to others. How are you able to have an understanding of someone else's pain if you haven't gone through it, right? How are you able to forgive someone if you haven't yourself asked for forgiveness? How are you able to love, to feel loved if you yourself have not loved someone?
Or loved
Everything
yourself.
is connected. Everything is connected. So about expectations, by the way, I read this somewhere. These are not my words, but it's something that I always thought about. It is so hard to change ourselves, right? Imagine trying to change somebody else. It's a scam. Don't try it. Don't try it. It's not possible. Work on yourself. Build your kingdom. Build your temple. You know, expect a blessing. Be grateful. Walk with the expectation of yourself. Your standards should remain high. Don't lower your standards for any reason. Yes, lower your expectations, but keep your standards high. It is very important how you see yourself, the things you say about yourself, the things you believe about yourself are going to impact the way people see you. You may not believe in the moment, but this is, you can walk into, think of this, think of life was a box, right? And because of the things that have happened to us, be trauma or whatever, life happens and we get into these boxes and we build these walls, right? We put up these tight walls that are full of, well, I'm not going to let anyone else hurt me again, or I'm not going to be able to do this over here, and I'm not talking to that person. This person reminds me of this person that hurt me in the past, and we carried the backpack with us in that box.
That backpack.
So imagine then that box is constant. And the only thing that changes is you go in and out of that box and you come back with different people, whether it's your boss, a relationship, a family member, relationship with your siblings or your coworkers, whatever it may be, or a marriage, a partnership, or, you know, any type of relationship or friendship. So you're repeating the same patterns because you're not changing anything here. What you're changing is people that are you're giving access to.
Yes.
Right? Now imagine this. If we had the power to remove or to break down those walls and build different ones, built walls that were based on the fact that we're human, we're going to fall, being realistic about what it is that we're able to achieve, expecting great things nonetheless, but great things for ourselves, taking responsibility and being a part of making decisions of love towards ourselves and others. I think that we would have different types of walls, and perhaps we wouldn't repeat so many patterns. You see, I think that what I've noticed as I get older is that the repetition was a little bit part of the evolving process, of course, but I know that not everyone who repeats evolves. Everyone who evolves repeats, but not everyone who repeats evolve. Okay. So what there needs to be is a conscious, you need to be awake. You need to be intentional. You need to make a decision that you will find your path. It's not up to anyone else. One of my mentors says, you know, the pain, by the name of Pastor Kim Jones, I should say her name, the pain might not be in your fault, but the healing is your responsibility. I heard her say this. I don't even know if these are her words, but she says that a lot. One of my other mentors, Dr. Michelle McKinney Hammond, she says, you know, it's okay to have, it's okay to be angry. Just don't let the anger have you. Right? Don't let the trauma become you. Don't let your identity be a part of something that was done to you. Easier said than done. I get it. But again, awareness, and that place that you get that says, you know, I deserve good things.
Yes.
I don't know how I'm going to get it, but I deserve good things. And the moment you set your mind on that, I have a little sticker on my mirror in the morning that says, I am love.
Ah, so
Okay. Now, am I loving every day? Can I have moments of that I'm triggered and I'm not as loving as I should be? Sure, that's true. But I still say I am love every day
right.
because
And
my goal is to connect with people. And when you connect with people, you need to come from a place of love. And so, is it going to be perfect? No. But is it going to be worth it?
and
Yes.
on that
Even if you want to empower people, right? I was asked once about what do you think that
note,
is a superpower of women that are leaders? I said, well, for starters, leaders empower, they don't impose.
exactly. But
But
Dea, we have like a minute left for the show.
oh,
So
look at that.
this
We
was
could be here all night.
we can go on and on. So
Yes, we
with
could.
that being said, I want to really thank you so much for all the knowledge that you've shared here. But can you tell folks where they could actually find you?
Yes. So very simple. Here you can see Coaching with Dea on Instagram. If you go on my link tree, then there are links to everything that I do. You can contact me. I'm also on Google with Coaching with Dea. You can find my business listed as well as reviews if you need to find out a little bit about how I interact with my clients. Reach out. Reach out.
Awesome. Awesome. So you wouldn't come to the Bull Show without answering this. Finish the statement. Dea is in 30 seconds.
Love.
Love it. Dea, it was indeed a pleasure to be in this space with you, having this soothing conversation. Thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your night on purpose. And to all our viewers, we want to say thank you all so much for tuning in. But we're hoping that you're going to act on the things that we've said. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Likewise.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.